Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Happy Monday. I'm Andrea Wilson, and I come on here on Monday and I talk about the real estate market, give you your weekly update. So, if this is your first time joining me, thank you for joining me today. Please excuse me real quick as I get this all set up real quick on my page. Just want to share this real quick. Let's see here before we get started. So bear with me. I'm sorry. And have this prepared and ready to go. Share this real. Uh-oh. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Got this all the way wrong today. All right. Here we go. All right, I'm all set. Thank you for bearing with me for a moment there. It kind of sucks when you have to be your own producer, right? So, again, I'm Andrea Wilson, the broker here at Brickhouse Realty. Today is Monday, and I come on here and I share some updates and information with you about the real estate market. So, today we are doing the same thing here. So, let's get started. All right, so thank you again for joining me today. Today, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to do a Q&A. As I go about my weeks and days, I'm often asked a number of questions. And so I've been keeping track of those questions, at least the ones that come up over and over again, to be able to share with you guys here. So I'm just going to jump in it. These real estate questions, it might be for a buyer, it might be a seller, or it might even be for if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or a real estate investor. So I'm just going to kind of jump in here, have this list, and then if you have any questions as well, I'll keep an eye out. Please comment in the chat. I will answer your questions as well. So one of the common questions that I receive on the buyer side is, can you back out of a deal, or when can you back out of a deal? Not that you want to make a habit of this or anything, but for whatever reason, sometimes buyers will prepare or will write an offer on a property, they'll sleep on it overnight, and then they'll come back and decide that maybe that wasn't the perfect home for them. Want to back, or overnight, literally, I have seen situations where things pop up and you just don't want to move forward with that property for whatever, lost job, right? You might lose your job, go into work the next day, or you're in the middle of this transaction and then you realize that, you know what, I lost my job, I can no longer afford this home. So you have to understand your contract and the time frame of all of this. So the first question is, even as a buyer, you can absolutely ask your real estate agent that you're working with, like, is it too late? But you also want to do your own research as well. So when you write an offer on a property, that agent would have written a contract for you. And in that contract, there's a number of dates that are going on that you may not be aware of. So if you opted in, when you wrote that contract and you opted in for, let's say, a home inspection, right? So in the contract, there is going to be an inspection period, usually anywhere from 5, 7, or 10 days, or kind of like the most common ones. Usually it does not go beyond 10 days unless there was an issue with access to the property or utilities need to be turned on. So we need to extend that period of time, because that is a thing too. You want to make sure that all of the utilities are on at the property as well. So if you are within that inspection period, of the contract, then if something pops up because of that, then you're able to back out of that contract. If you also want to back out because of financing issues, such as you lost your job, you absolutely have time to back out of that contract. We do want to be careful though, once we go past any of those contract periods, like your inspection period where we signed off, we've got you through the lender piece of that, and we signed off on that, because you could be subject to losing your earnest money. And your earnest money is a good faith deposit that you put down to say that you're serious about the house. And it could be $500, it could be $1,000, it could be $2,000, just depending on the terms of the contracts or maybe the request of the seller. So it just all depends. I would say most contracts that I write is going to be $500. Sometimes in certain cases it could be $1,000, so you don't want to you don't want to miss out on that money for sure. So if you need to get out of the contract, then it needs to be during that contingency period in the contract. So the next question I had on my list is, as the buyer, how much do you have to pay a real estate agent? So that's a very common question. People are wondering, we're working with, we're in shopping as a buyer, wondering how much will you have to pay your real estate agent. As a buyer, it's actually free to work with a real estate agent. So what happens is, when that seller decided to put their home on the market and they listed it with the listing agent, that listing agent agreed to split the commission. So they charge the seller one lump sum commission, and then in that listing agreement, they're going to offer a share or a portion of that commission to anyone that comes along and brings a buyer. And so any real estate agent. So any agent, any company, anytime you list your home with the real estate agent, it doesn't matter what company that they are with. We all work and share inventory within the same business, which flows under the multiple listing service, or MLS. So anything that's in the MLS, it doesn't matter what company that real estate agent is working with, they can have access to the property. And this also goes for rentals. A lot of times people are looking for rentals, and I hear this a lot, where they have a hard time reaching the listing agent. You can actually call any real estate agent. If that property is in the MLS, they can show you that rental as well. So for the buyer, it doesn't cost you anything to have a real estate agent. So you definitely want to bring someone along with you, have that real estate agent write that contract for you and look over things on your behalf. Even if it's a for sale by owner, there are ways that we can write the contract where the seller, even in a for sale by owner situation, where they will cover that commission for your agent. It's like having an attorney for you, someone that is used to the terminology, the contracts, that's reviewing and looking out for things on your best half. So definitely want to get that real estate agent. So the next thing is, what is the difference between a real estate broker and an agent? So many of you have heard me say, introduce myself as being Andrea Wilson, a real estate broker. And so what that means is, when there's a real estate broker, that means that I or that individual has taken some advanced classes and testing to have a higher level real estate agent. So not all real estate brokers are owners of real estate brokerages. Some of them could be just on a management level, or some could just have their broker license just for the sake of wanting their broker's license. So they are able to do so. But in order to own a real estate brokerage, you do have to have a real estate broker running that office for you. So you could technically own a real estate brokerage, not be a real estate agent even, and then hire a real estate broker to come in and manage the office for you and run that office as well. So again, a real estate broker is someone that has taken some advanced classes and additional testing to operate at a higher level. So as the term realtor, That term realtor really is a trademark, right? The National Association of Realtor has trademarked that name, and that's part of a trade organization. So the term realtor actually just means that you belong to the real estate trade organization. So the proper terminology is actually just a licensed real estate agent or a real estate agent or a broker. So, and the realtor just means that they're part of that trade organization. And there's other trade organizations like Realtis. That is going to be the Black real estate agents, their organization that was created many, many years ago. Another question that comes up all the time actually is, excuse me, where do you find foreclosure properties? And this is oftentimes, you would think maybe just real estate investors ask this question, but actually it's a lot of people that just want to buy the home at a deep discount for themselves to live in. So they're always thinking that there is a special site or somewhere that you go to find these properties. And so what oftentimes happens is this, right? So as real estate agents, we typically do have access to the foreclosed properties. These properties, so just to kind of backtrack a little bit, you have an owner who fails to make payment on their home. The payment, this goes on for 3-4 months. That bank will then file for foreclosure. The owner actually has some time to get back up on and get caught up on payments and make some sort of arrangements with that bank. But if they do not make those arrangements, that lender or that bank could proceed with filing the foreclosure. So they go to court, and oftentimes what happens at court or that auction, so that foreclosure sale, oftentimes we will see that the bank will actually buy that property back at foreclosure. Now the owner has up until the confirmation of the sale of that property, which happens not the day of the auction, several days later. They have the confirmation of sale to come up with the cash to buy their property back. But in most cases, depending on the house, the lender or the bank they actually buy that property back at the auction and receive that property back, right? So the first step is, while it's going through that foreclosure period window before it actually goes up for foreclosure, one of the key things is that the owner could actually buy that property back until the confirmation of sale. So oftentimes people will call, they're like, well, can you reach out to the bank? And so the bank's hands are tied at that moment because they technically don't own it unless they buy that property back. That home is still rightfully owned to that owner. So the greatest chance to do anything would be to connect with that owner. In that stage of the game, the owner's option, what they could really do at that point, is either a short sale or you work out some kind of agreement with that owner. If you do a short sale, that is additional paperwork that have to be done where the owner of the house agrees. They have to then submit the packet and information to the bank for them to approve. The problem is, or where things kind of get a little delayed, is when you go through a short sale process, the paperwork, it's a lot of paperwork on the buyer's end of it. We need 3 months bank stubs. We need bank statements. We need pay stubs. We need all of this information because we have to show a hardship to the lender as to why you got behind. You couldn't file, why you couldn't make the payments. So it takes a lot. And so for some owners, they have just kind of mentally checked out of this process a lot of times by the time we reach them, that they just want to wash their hands with it and just accept the foreclosure, because it could take up to a year when you're going through that short sale process, and you may not even have enough time if they've already started the proceedings for the foreclosure, right? So up until the confirmation of sale, you really can't contact the lender. Their hands are tied because it's running through that process. Now, once the bank buys that property back at the auction, they still have to do some internal processing on their end, securing the property, running its course through the proper channels. And sometimes it takes months to do that. So they hire asset managers to handle this for them. These are property preservation companies. These property preservation companies then go out to the property. They do a trash out. They remove all of the trash. If it's wintertime, they're going to winterize the property. They are getting the property so it's secure. They don't want you going into the house or being responsible for a house that has maybe clutter all over and someone goes in, they fall. They clear all of that information out. And even during that time frame, the property is typically not available for sale because it's going through its natural process of being prepared for sale, right? And this is just what they're doing. So a lot of times we want to get a jump on it, and unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that. So once the property is preserved, I guess, or it's winterized, they cleaned it out, they then go ahead and will send that off to an agent that they have contracted with. Oftentimes, it goes to the agent that had done some of that preliminary work up front in some cases, meaning they went out, they researched the property for them because the banks are probably in another state. So just doing a market analysis, the value, seeing if somebody's living there. So then they'll give that agent the listing. So when they give that agent the listing, that foreclosure, that bank owned property will then hit the MLS and come on the market. And so you're able to see that property on there. You may not necessarily know that it's a foreclosure property because it's not expressed that way, but you can oftentimes tell by the condition of the property, right? So one of the things I will make you aware of right now when we're talking about these foreclosure properties, you have to plan to either be paying cash for this property, a conventional loan, or you will need a 203K product. If you were planning to go FHA, usually the condition of the property is not in a place where it is ready or conditioned the way that FHA is going to require that. So you want to make sure that you understand what type of loan before you go out trying to bid on there. And then lastly, you don't want to use sites like Zillow to find these potential deals because Zillow usually has a lot of outdated information on those sites. We want to look at sites like HomeSnap, even realtor.com to find these potential properties. So I hope that answered that question. So my next thing that I have is that common question that people ask is, do you like being a real estate agent? And so first, let me just kind of repeat here. I'm just going through some Q&A today. Actually, let me put that up on there. I'm just going through some Q&A questions, common questions that I'm asked all the time about real estate, whether it's a buyer, seller, want to get your license, or real estate investor. So just hopefully maybe you have some of these questions. So I'm answering those here today. So the question is, do I like being a real estate agent? And although, like any job, there's days where I'm frustrated. So there's definitely peaks and valleys in this business. But overall, I love being in real estate and I love being a real estate agent. And I actually love being an owner of a real estate brokerage and working and have an opportunity to work and train other agents. I've always wanted to be a real estate agent, probably since I was about around 18 years old. And so it got delayed a little bit, that process of just being young and not really understanding or knowing what I wanted. But it was something that had always remained on my mind. And so I went back to achieve that goal. And here I am today. So I absolutely love it. I will say it's not, being a real estate agent is not for everyone whatsoever. It's bigger than just being about the sales piece of it. People are always like, well, it's sales, I get it. Well, what makes real estate a little bit different from any other sales business is because you really have to deal and manage people in this business. Dealing with people with such a large purchase, right? So there's so much emotions that's going on. Sometimes you're dealing with people who they went through a divorce. Now they're forced to either buy a house or sell a house and they didn't want to. So they're emotional. Dealing with people who have to relocate or they had a fire at the last house. So many things that's going on. And that's the part that makes things challenging because dealing with people, we change our mind, we change our mood. And so we're all going through this transaction. So it's definitely something that you want to, if you are considering, you want to know all of the facts. In fact, this Saturday, you can join me right back here at 10 a.m. on Saturday. And I'm going to just have a candid conversation with an agent in our office, CG Newman. She is 1 year in the business this month. And so we're just going to have a conversation of, kind of what she thought of real estate was before she got into the business. And now what does she think about it afterwards? So it'll be interesting and no fluff. I mean, she's going to share, it is what it is. I believe that she loves it, but we'll just share kind of like those challenges too. So join us back here at 10 a.m. this Saturday. So my next question I have, should I make repairs to a home? This is more for a seller question. Should I make repairs to my home before listing it, or should I wait for the buyer request? So if you're thinking about selling your home, you should absolutely have those repairs done before placing it on the market or showing your property. And the main reason why is that not everyone really has a clue or an idea how big or little a job is, right? So if something comes up that, your electrical outlet is not grounded, right? So for some people, the fact that a home inspector may say an outlet is not grounded sounds pretty scary. And then for other people, it's like, oh no, you just swap out the outlet to a 2 from a 3 to a 2 or whatever it is you want to do. But for some people, that's scary. And they might think it's electrical. When you think about electrical, you think about fires and you think about your family living there and sleeping at night. Your mind starts racing. So here you are, you have a repair of just switching out an electrical outlet for, I don't know, $50, if you call somebody in there, to now someone wanting to ask you for $1,000 because now I need new outlets throughout the entire house. And as crazy as that may sound, it's not so crazy as being on this side of it because it happens. People just, when you think about something, you think about it to the max, right? So they just automatically see this little thing and it could be this big thing. And it could be a very big thing. I don't know, but it's so important for you to just go ahead, call the professionals out, have those repaired ahead of time. It eliminates, when you don't have the repairs done, it slows down the process. Now you have to get quotes. We want to get to, the end of this. So I definitely recommend that you go ahead and you have those items taken care of beforehand. Okay, so there is a question asking about down payment. So it's going to just depend on the type of loan that you are going with, and it actually may depend a little bit on your credit score. So in general, if you are going with FHA, a FHA loan is more like a first-time home buyer product. They're going to require like 3.5% down. If you're going conventional, then on average, people, I would say, put about 5% down. They do have under conventional a down payment product. A first-time home buyer product that you can put 3% down. But on average, if people go on conventional, you usually put down about 5%. If you're going FHA, 3.5%. But when I say it depends on your credit, that is another factor as well. So in the transaction, all your transactions, there's two things that you have to save for, primary things you have to save for. That's your down payment and your closing costs. Your closing costs on average is about 4%, between 3 and 4% of your loan amount. It could be up to 6%. So you would need to have that. You need your down payment. So down payment, closing costs. And the lower that your score is, the lender may require that you have some reserves. What the reserves is money in the bank, right? They may say, we want to see 3 months of reserves. So if your mortgage payment is going to be $1,000 a month, they may want to see that you have $3,000 saved in there. You don't have to spend it. You don't have to give it to anyone. After it closes, you can spend the money, but at closing, you want to see that you have some cash reserves in there, depending on where your score is. That's important to know. But on average, if you're a first-time home buyer, 3.5% down. We can do some creative things with the closing costs where we ask the seller to pay the closing costs, within the contract, so we can get away with some of that. But you want to make sure you do have some money saved. So my next thing that I had on my list is, if you're a seller, should you accept the first offer that comes in, right? So in this market, it is a seller's market. So sellers are seeing multiple offers come in, kind of get exciting for some people, right? And the answer to that question is, it depends. It depends on your personality, right? So everyone kind of operates a little differently. The way that I am, if an offer comes into me and it's where I want, so if I have my home, it's listed on the market for $200,000, an offer comes in for full asking price, they're not asking for any concessions, I would say, let's go ahead and accept that offer. We'll work with what's on the table today instead of just prolonging it. But I've worked with clients who like the thought of, okay, I'm asking 200, but in this market, it could go up. So let's see how many offers in. So they'll want to wait it out to kind of drive up the price to see if they can get more money out of it. So I think it just depends on your style. If you're somebody that just wants to kind of get it over with, or if you're someone that likes that bid process. So for me, I just wouldn't want to, if the first offer came in and it looked pretty strong and they gave me everything that I asked for on there, I'm in the type of person where I don't want to press my luck. I got what I was asking for. I wasn't looking for much more than that. So I would be okay with that, in fear of, if I wait, so they made that offer on Monday and say I wait until Friday. Well, you might tick that first person off, or that person does not feel secure. And so they're out still looking, and then they make an offer on something else and then say, forget about your house. But now you're stuck with offers that don't look as strong. So for me, I focus in on what's in front of me today instead of thinking or worrying about, what could come down the pipeline. So if you're a seller, you have to decide what type of seller you are. Now, if you were talking to my husband, he may say he's more of the gambler, let's see how this plays out type of person. So if I had to ask him, if I had to guess, he probably would like to just kind of wait and see what else comes in, that type of approach. But it's definitely a preference there. And then I have one last common question that comes in typically from buyers is, how do I know if I'm overpaying for a house? So that comes up quite a bit because no one wants to pay more, right? So, and especially right now, we are dealing with a seller's market. So because it's a seller's market, offers are coming in over the asking price. So in that $200,000 example, they are putting in $200,000, but given the asking price, but then they're going above that $10,000, $20,000 just because they're afraid that these other offers are coming in. So if you're the buyer, like, well, I don't know if I want to offer $220 because am I paying more for it? And so you need to rely on or push back on your real estate agent to make sure that they are sharing comps with you. So before submitting that offer, they need to go to the MLS and run some comps that support that your 220 offer. Now, this may be your dream home and you don't care what the price is, you are willing to pay it. That's fine and okay. But you need to at least know what you're getting yourself into ahead of time. You don't want to be on the back end of that to just think that it was that value, or what it truly valued at, and it's not. You actually overpay for the house. But we rely on the data to help decide, if you're overpaying or where things are at. Values on homes, they are increasing quickly. We watched that within the last 6 months, even just like starting to increase because the inventory levels are so low that we'll probably start to see this flatten out a little bit pretty soon here. As we're starting to go into the spring season. So that's it. You want to just do your research, make sure that you're working with a real estate agent that you're confident in. They know what they're talking about. They can answer all of your questions responsive. I will say in this market here, I definitely say that you work with a full-time real estate agent, or one that can definitely show at multiple times a day. The housing inventory is so low right now that you have to get into these property right away. And if they're working at a job and they can't get out to show you that property, you might lose out. So that is all that I have for you guys today. I want to thank all of you for joining in with me today. If you have any questions, you can send me a message, DM me. I'm happy to answer those questions for you. Maybe I'll jump back on here and do another list of questions all the time. Next week, I think I will be sharing kind of like some review of the numbers of where we're at. But I look forward to you all joining me next week. Again, my name is Andrea Wilson. I'm the real estate broker here at Brick House Realty. I jump on here on Monday mornings, and give you your market update. So if you're not already following me or subscribed to my channel, please do so today. You are more than welcome. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you guys next time.